I recently turned 30, which means my 20s is done, and damn man, it feels like extreme relief. But taught me a lot, and that's what this video is going to be about. 7 things I wish I knew at 20. The most powerful lessons that I've personally learned over the past decade. Enjoy. Number 1, your 20s won't be the time of your life. Don't get me wrong, they're going to be cool, they'll be fine, but according to most of the people I know who are older than me and myself now that I've finished my 20s, they're a little bit overhyped. And I think that where this comes from is how your 20s are portrayed in advertising and TV and movies. You know, we're shown this whirlwind of cocktails and cool romances and interesting jobs. And so before we get to our 20s, we've had like an entire childhood of this expectation of this, wow, I'll have 5 friends and one of them's called Chandler. And you'll be a writer like Carrie Bradshaw. You'll be young, you'll be beautiful, and all your self-discovery will be charming and marketable. But then you get to your 20s and you're like, that was only one side of the story. What we see a bit less of is the fact that you're inexperienced, you're broke, you're scared. You have a whole slew of mental health issues and a childhood back catalogue of drama that you have to work through. Instead of the Heineken ad type 20s, what I'd say that your 20s really look like is a combination of the two. Yeah, you got the fun times, the times where you party, when you take wild risks, when you fall in love, all the cool stuff. But for the most of it, you feel like a naive child in the adult world and you're finding it hard to be taken seriously. You're broke, you're lost, and you're emotionally volatile. It's, I don't know, it's a cool thing to have in my past, put it that way. 2, you don't do things for you do things for future you. This is a lesson that I learned in my later 20s, and it was a pretty simple lesson. Every time I have a decision, ask myself, what does future me want? So for example, when I wanted to quit drugs and alcohol, I'd say, what does tomorrow me want? Does tomorrow me want to feel shame and sad? And the first time that I answered no, the days ticked over, tomorrow me was inevitable because it always is. And I felt, instead of shame, this tremendous amount of self-respect. And I was like, oh, I get it now. Our decisions create our future. I have no idea how that lesson just bypassed me, but it made me think about it in a more long-term sense. I was like, all right, if I make decisions to make tomorrow me happy and that makes my life better, surely if I make decisions to make me 3 years from now happy, that will make my life amazing. So I started doing that. I was like, all right, what does me 3 years from now want? And the cool thing about that is 3 years passing is inevitable. You will become that person and you'll thank yourself 3 years ago and be like, oh man, you really had my back. Thanks for working so hard, or thanks for working on your body, or thanks for investing the time in this, or investing the money in this. And I think that was just a really cool lesson to learn. I mean, I've heard all the cliches, you reap what you sow, but to truly experience it was something else. 3, assume everyone's got shit. The way I see it, you've got 2 options. You can assume everybody's doing better than you can put yourself in the victim role and you can put them on a pedestal, you can endow them with a perfect life that you end up becoming resentful of, even though it's fictional, until everybody's just hurt and hating each other. Or you can assume that they're fighting a crazy big demon just like yourself, and that they are struggling just like you, and you can meet them with compassion and love and give them space to express themselves. Obviously don't feel guilty if you can't act like a saint all the time. You've got shit too, man. But what I found is that the latter is always true. Everybody always has the demons, man. Everybody. I've never found an exception. In fact, there was this one time I had to interview a guy. He was like a famous artist and he'd grown up kind of like nice upper middle class family and then just transitioned into stardom, and there didn't seem like there was that much struggle from my point of view. And I remember after the interview, I had this resent and I was like, oh, damn, you've got the easiest life ever. And then a few months later, he came out with this piece about how he was struggling with depression and anxiety. And I was like, damn, I was too arrogant to see that. And it reinforced the idea that I'm struggling, you're struggling, we're all struggling, but we struggle a little bit less if we acknowledge it and struggle together. Hell yeah. 4, at some point, drugs stop being fun. Don't get me wrong, drugs start out really fun, but over time they get less fun and less fun until one day they're not fun at all. Now here's the thing that I wish I knew at 20. They don't get better. That point does not reverse. It's not like more drugs will eventually make them fun again. Once they start to suck, they stay sucking. And there's this idea that we all cling to because every once in a while they are really cool, and that's usually because of the company and the environment you're in, not because of the drugs. But then we're like, oh, maybe the drugs will get cool again, but they don't. They just don't. Once they start to suck, they stay sucking. It took me way too long to learn this, but there's a Terence McKenna quote that I really like. He was referring to psychedelics, but I kind of like it for all drugs and alcohol. Once you get the message, hang up the phone. Put more simply, if drugs have started to suck, it's time to change, baby. There's another quote that I really like, which is, sobriety has given me all the things that drugs and alcohol promised. And I would say, largely, I'm not 100% sober, I still slip up, I ain't no saint, but I've found that to be 100% true. 5, don't stress if you don't crush it this decade. I've talked about this before, but damn man, there is a freakish pressure that the internet is putting on young people, especially young creative people, to be stupidly successful super young and to pump out as much high quality stuff as they possibly can. Like an amount that isn't even human. And the result is a whole generation of people being like, am I not enough? It's cooked, man. If you're in your 20s and you're watching this and you're like, why haven't I achieved my wildest dreams by now? Then you're not alone at all. Oh my God, you're in like the 99.9% majority. The thing that I wish I knew in my 20s was that the thing that I was chasing wasn't the thing that was going to fulfill me. And I know it sounds trite, like material success won't make you happy, which is a phrase I'm usually suspicious of because it almost always comes from people who have heaps of material success. But what I've found to be more true is once your needs and standards are met, so once you kind of got like enough money, enough food, enough space around you and enough freedom, everything beyond that is on you. So I guess the life advice would be, if you're quite focused on traditional success, split that a little bit and also focus on building up systems within your head that make you appreciate what you got. I finished this book last night by Greg McKeown called Effortless, and there's a really cool quote in it that says, if you focus on what you lack, you lose what you have. If you focus on what you have, you gain what you lack. In short, get your needs met, be grateful, then go for success. Flipping those last two doesn't work. I've tried. 6. Hard choices, easy life. Easy choices, hard life. I've talked about this one as well on this channel, but it really bears repeating in a video like this. It's a quote from the Olympic weightlifter Jerzy Gregorek. What it means is if you pick the easy path, you know, like sleeping, chilling, smoking cones all day, your life will ironically end up really hard. You'll wake up at 30 and you'll be like, ah shit man, I ain't got nothing. But if you pick the hard life, you know, friggin' running, cleaning, working, your life will end up really easy. There's another bro dude, Jocko Willink, who has this mantra that I love, discipline equals freedom, and he's right. The more disciplined you are, the more mental freedom that you buy yourself, because you're like, yeah, I did all this, therefore I respect myself, therefore I have space to just exist. The things that you haven't done don't torment you in your head because you've done them. I think I used to think that this only applied to big decisions, like should I move to this city or that city? Should I take this job or this job? But what I've realized, and what I wish I knew at 20, was this is way better applied to smaller decisions. Everyday things around your life, you know, the micro decisions that you make every single day. What do I have for lunch? A salad or a bucket of oil that I drink through a silly straw? What am I gonna do? Take my dogs for a walk or scroll on my phone and get sad? Should I call my mom or my dealer? You get the idea. Even more so than the big decisions, these little choices add up and form your life. 7. Wherever you go, there you are. You ready to get real? I'd turn my chair around and sit like a cool substitute teacher if I could, but I can't. It's got arms. So for most of my 20s, I ran from myself. I had a bit of excess money from things and I traveled a lot with that. I'd go overseas a lot. I did so many drugs. I tried to throw myself into a career I didn't like. I pretty much spent every waking moment distracted. And it's because on some level I was scared of staring at myself. You know, the thing that you're meant to do in meditation? That. And that is because, and this is something that I think defines a lot of people's 20s, but I had unaddressed trauma from my childhood and I needed to process it. There was a time when I would have been 28 and my mum pried about something which had happened to me when I was younger, which I didn't even know she knew about. I think we were talking about a person that she had listened to this interview of this guy who had been sexually abused when he was younger and then went on to live this fantastic life, and his wife was his rock, and you know, he was this entertainer and had a good life. And what I didn't realize is that she was drawing a parallel to me, and then she just turned the conversation. She goes, oh, a bit like this. And in my head, that was a secret. And my plan was to keep it a secret until I died. But in that moment, my mum kind of set me free and helped me, I guess, get out the fact that I'd been sexually abused as a child. Later that day, Felicity came home and I told her, and I thought that she was going to be disgusted with me and leave me, which is so wrong. And she didn't, and she was just full of love. Because I was able to admit that, I think I started processing all the other stuff. That was probably the worst of all the trauma. There's still like a bunch of other stuff. You know, everyone's got their freaking closet, right? But what I was able to do was to look at myself and kind of be still, and it just changed who I am. It made me more honest, made me a better person. I don't know, it was cool. There's a really cool Lewis Howes quote on this one where he goes, "You're only as sick as your secrets." And damn, that is so damn true. So yeah, that's my list. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you got something out of that. If you are past your 20s and you want to leave some advice, chuck some in the comments. If you're in your 20s and you got something out of that, let me know. In any case, good luck with what is going to be inevitably a chaotic decade. And other than that, have a lovely day. Catch ya.